Canada is a nation known for many things. Their reputation of being the friendly, syrup sippin' neighbors of the US, with hundreds of miles of pristine wilderness. And although the Great North is in the news circles for different reasons as of late, I'd figured today's video would be a great opportunity to look into Canada's wealth of cryptids. Several of the most iconic cryptids in the world are said to live in the shadows of the Canadian wilderness. But today, I want to shine a light on some more obscure yet still very fascinating cryptids. So, join me today on Cryptid Corner, the series All Things Cryptids, as we examine the cryptids of Canada. And to start off our list, we find ourselves on the Pacific coast on Dundas Island in British Columbia, not to be confused with Canada's other Dundas Island in the Arctic or the Dundas Island of New Zealand. Dundas Island has been known to have quite a fly problem, but long ago, there were said to live swarms of massive blackflies, referred to by the natives as demons, but by the settlers as the Dundas Island blackflies. Unlike the already unpleasant blackflies that swarm the island, these flies were 4 to 6 inches long and lived in black swarms, which would cover the parts of the island in black whilst on the hunt for food. Dundas blackflies would bite whatever large mammal they could land their 6 legs on, drinking the victim's blood as well as ripping out chunks of flesh from their skin. And to make it all worse, these flies were said to have a venom so strong that just a few dozen of them could paralyze a fully grown cow. And may I remind you, there were said to be thousands of these flies living in swarms. But it seems that the flies are unable to leave the island, being restricted to the island as if it was some sort of curse that was set upon the island by some Courage the Cowardly Dog villain. It is said that for this reason, Dundas Island is largely uninhabited by large animals as well as humans, save for a few fishermen, whale watchers, and tourists who visit the island on occasion. Now, people who have went to the island have told of there being very aggressive blackflies, but not swarms of half-foot-long death flies. To me, it appears that the legend of the blackflies was a clever way to explain the lack of settlement on the island by hyperbolizing the island's history with blackflies. Dundas Island is rather undesirable island to want to set up shop on, with the closest settlement being the port city of St. Rupert on Cane Island, with a small population of about 12,000 people. And due to the poor conditions and cruel nature of the Canadian wilderness, 80% of the land in Canada is uninhabited. Not out of laziness or greed or anything, because it is just so dreadful to set up settlements in this type of climate. I mean, you gotta figure, like, if the power goes out in one of these places, everyone is screwed. That's what, it just makes it hard to set up major cities all over the place in places like Canada. But if you told me that bone-stripping flies were keeping people from settling this island and not stupid things like the weather, I'd go ahead and turn back while I still can. Shifting our gaze to the cold Arctic territory of Nunavut, around Cumberland Sound to be specific, the Inuit of the region speak of a fearsome creature known as the Arklaw. The Arklaw is said to be a grayish, hairy animal that is larger and more fierce than a bear, with a long tail, short hind limbs, large claws, told to end in 3 digits similar to a bird's foot, and hind feet said to resemble human heels. It is implied that these creatures were quadrupedal, but when resting, they are known to stand upright. The Arklaw live in large holes, creating dens, with the Inuit claiming to have successfully infiltrated the den on occasion whilst it slept and killing them. Alright, look, if you're a fan of this channel, you know what's coming. Large hairy animal that's about bear size with large claws, a long tail, and rests on its hind legs? It sounds like we got a ground sloth on our hands, boys. Although, it isn't the perfect match for the Arklaw. Ground sloths seem to be the closest match for whatever this creature could be, at least that I could think of. Ground sloths were known to inhabit dens and caves, even digging their own massive dens in South America. And although they inhabited the Arctic Circle when it was way more habitable, the Megalonyx jeffersoni has lived as far north as Alaska, and Mylodon darwini has lived as far south as the southernmost tip of South America. Perhaps a species of ground sloth had evolved to live in the harsh Arctic landscape, throwing down with polar bears and telling any human that they find to fuck off. The aggression and the ferocity is the one part I don't see to align with a ground sloth to me, as of course they were herbivores and potentially opportunistic omnivores, but not hunting animals. Although many ground sloth cryptids are described as being aggressive, so I mean, hey, that's just kind of a correlation, right? It could be a fake thing, but maybe they were just really pissed off at people, and understandably so, given how dirty we did them. Other theories claim that the Arklaw to be a sort of large Wolverine relative that kind of got all messed up in the Arctic, or perhaps a bizarre population of bears, or even a surviving Arctodus bear, the North American short-faced bear. Arctodus bears reached monstrous sizes, dwarfing even polar bears, and lived even further north than the Jefferson's ground sloth mentioned earlier. And although the mention of free-fingered hands and human-heeled paws doesn't seem to match it, along with the mention of a very long tail, which these bears didn't have, the Arctodus were undoubtedly larger, tougher to kill, and more fierce than modern bears, especially if a population had to evolve in a cold, harsh climate near Cumberland Sound. Both Megalonyx and Arctodus went extinct around the same time, though, with climate change wiping them out during the end Pleistocene extinctions, along with human interference, of course, being a huge factor. But if surviving descendants of these animals aren't answers to this puzzle of what the Arklaw could be, then whatever lives in these dens up in Nunavut is surely a monster worth discovering. I'd hate to be the guy looking for it, though. Imagine looking in every hole you find for a big death bear creature. That'd have to be messed up. Now moving to a more comfortable region, Quebec's Wood Lake, or rather Le Lac Wood, is home to a bizarre creature, one not known for its appearance, but instead for the loud sound that it emits. The Lockwood Screecher has never been seen, meaning nobody knows what it looks like, only being identified by its dreadful screams. It is said to be a very terrifying, almost metallic noise that not only will leave you confused and maybe scared, but if you are to come close enough to the screaming beast, you could be in danger, as close proximity to these screams can cause headaches, nausea, vomiting, and even nosebleeds. And the Screecher is said to leave behind other evidence, though, including bits of hair. But don't let your curiosity be your undoing, as this hair is very dangerous, as it contains a dandruff that causes great irritation to the skin upon contact, even leading to your skin peeling off and leaving a very disgusting scar. Despite people hearing this dreaded Screecher, even beyond Quebec, in provinces like New Brunswick and Nova Scotia, no footage or audio recordings exist of this creature, leaving its identity a mystery. Cold Lake is a lake that sits on the Alberta-Saskatchewan border, with temperatures that I would assume are not too warm. Also, before going any further, to display just how nice and neat the province borders are in Canada, I love how this small sliver of land on Murray Island falls under Alberta, instead of the whole island just being, under one province or the other. I just thought that was cool. The lake gets its name from the Cree natives, who called the lake Coldwater Lake. Long ago, there was a Cree warrior who would often paddle his boat down the lake to visit a woman he loved and wished to marry. But every time, he would stick to paddling along the shore. This was more time-intensive, but cutting across the lake was seen as a very risky move. Despite this, on a calm night, the young warrior decided to cut across the French Bay in order to save some time, assuming it would be safe due to the winds being low and the water being still. But just as the warrior's lover came to see him by the shore, a massive fish erupted from the bottom of the lake, snapping his boat in half in a single bite. As the man tried desperately to swim to shore, the fish would bite him and drag him down to the lake's depths, never being seen again, leaving behind only the shattered remains of his canoe and a paddle. This fish is known to the Cree as the Kinosoo, also referring to it as Big Kinosoo and, more simply, the Big Fish. The Kinosoo is said to resemble a mix between a pike and a sturgeon, two very large fish that call this lake home. Although the Kinosoo is said to be far larger than even the largest sturgeon in the lake, whilst sharing an aggression much larger than that of a pike. The residents of Cold Lake had many stories of encounters with Kinosoo, with a Cree fisherman being said to have never returned from a trip, being thought to have been devoured by the fish, swallowed whole whilst alive. But in a very comedic twist, the Kinosoo was said to have died when a bull elk hit it while crossing the lake. Like, bro, how are you so strong that you can snap boats in half with a bite, but when a big ass deer hits you, it's wraps? In the mid 1800s, a group of Chippewayan natives had found back and rib bones of very large fish, with many thinking that these were a match for the Kinosoo, who had died in a deer-related accident. Despite this, it was thought that these bones did not just belong to a large fish, but instead a whale. And it is thought that this fish wasn't just a single individual, but an entire undocumented species, as sightings had continued far after the bones had been discovered. This leaves many fascinating theories behind just what the Kinosoo's identity could be. Whales struggle to live in freshwater bodies for very long times, with many toothed whales living in estuaries and may find themselves trapped in lakes on occasion. Although the idea of a whale evolving to live in a lake like this is a very fascinating one, the biggest problem is that the Kinosoo is described as a fish that lives in the depths of the lake, not a whale that would need to routinely surface, giving locals plenty of opportunities to identify it as such. And when I thought about its appearance, of how the fish resembles a mix between a pike and a sturgeon, I immediately thought if it could have been some sort of hybrid. And while researching, I discovered many hybrid fish, including the stuttlefish, a mix between a Russian sturgeon and an American paddlefish, exist. And although pike and sturgeon can't crossbreed, it is possible that some sort of hybrid sturgeon, who could have been bred to look more like a pike and are far larger than pike, could be the identity of this creature. Lakes are very interesting as they are isolated from other bodies of water and can produce their own species that live solely in them. Whale, fish, tall-tail, who knows? The only way to find out is to get a rod, get a more durable boat than the canoe that Cree warrior had, and go fishing. Even if you don't reel in the Kinosoo, you're still bound to have a damn good time on the water. Now, if I told you to close your eyes and picture a Canadian animal, chances are one of the first animals that you thought of was a beaver. Well, it should be no surprise that one cryptid that is synonymous with Canada is the giant beaver. American beavers are some of the largest rodents in the world, being only beat out by the capybara. And who can beat the capybara, honestly? Many reports have come in over the years speaking of beavers that were far larger, being around the size of a bear or even a moose. Many natives have also told tales of large beavers that roamed the lands long ago and created colossal dams, but have become more scarce in the recent years. Now, you know me, I love to bust out the good old ground sloth card whenever I can, but there's another Pleistocene animal that matches the description of the giant beaver far better, and that's the giant beaver, Castoroides. Castoroides was truly worthy of the title giant beaver, averaging a length of 6.2 feet and weighing around 170 pounds, but some estimates believe that they could have reached lengths of 7.2 feet and weighing up to 270 pounds, which just about matches the size of the beavers described, and even usurping some bears. There were some minor differences, though, in body shape, as Castoroides' tail was longer and not as paddle-like as modern beavers, and its teeth were not as effective as cutting down trees, which has led many to believe that they didn't create dams. Damn. It is thought that the Castroides went extinct around 10,000 years ago, during the end of Pleistocene extinction, where we were robbed of a ton of truly epic animals. Although, it is possible that some Castroides lived on a bit longer in isolated pockets of the Canadian wilderness. The many tales of large beavers could have also been inspired with some of the last encounters natives had with these giant beavers, passing down the tale and using them to explain natural phenomena. Or maybe these giant beavers were eaten by the Saber-Toothed, or the Yukon beaver eater. For more on that, check out my video on ground sloths. Now, the final cryptid of this video, and the one that ultimately inspired me to make this video, is said to have been found near the Tornget Mountains of the Labrador Peninsula, and it has the least information on it out of any other cryptid in this video. According to Canadian environmentalist and writer Farley Mowat, in 1968, local natives have told him that a bear that lived in that area. But this bear was different from the rest, with massive saber-like teeth. That's right, a saber-toothed bear. Imagine a Smilodon and a short-faced bear had rolled up into one package, and you got the coolest thing ever, but also the most terrifying thing ever. You get the deadly force of a bear, but now with the long teeth, that just makes it even easier to destroy you. It's even more broken now. This bear is just way too cool not to talk about, but with such little information on it, I could not make this a standalone video. What I told you is all that is known about this cryptid. So, for that reason, I decided to gather up a bunch of other lesser-known Canadian cryptids and put them all together in this video. And I had a lot of fun researching it, and I hope you had a lot of fun watching it. If you have any further information on these cryptids, or perhaps other obscure cryptids, please comment down below. I love reading what you guys have to say. And that's going to do it on my list of Canadian cryptids. Thank you all for watching, and more importantly, thank you all for 10,000 subscribers. We are now 10,000 subscribers plus strong, and I've been having a lot of fun more recently, man. You know, all these YouTubers talk about burnout, but I've been having more fun with the videos as the time goes. The last few weeks have been really fun to put together these videos, really fun to record, you know. I definitely appreciate all of the growth the channel has gotten in the past few months, you know, shifting over to more cryptid-related content, stuff like that. Very cool. I do have more ideas for cryptid videos, of course, but also different videos that I kind of want to try out going forward. Nothing too different, though. I think you all would still get a good kick out of it. But ultimately, I gotta thank you all for clicking on it. You know, it means a lot, like, genuinely. YouTubers say that a lot, but it's like, wow, people are watching my stuff. Like, I mean, I've watched YouTube for a very long time, and, you know, actually putting out your own videos, it's a really cool experience, you know, kind of putting your own video out there is just such a cool thing to do. So if you got an idea, like, if you really want to make a video, just do it, honestly. There's no harm in just putting it out in the void. And after, you know, people might like it too, you know, and at least it'd be something you could look back on and like. But I'm not going to hold y'all any longer. Thank you all for watching. As said earlier, if you got any recommendations, go ahead and comment them down below. If you've had any encounters with these cryptids, comment down below to any Canadians out there. If you like the video, make sure to like it. Subscribe for more. If you want to get the videos early, and I mean like 12 hours early, not too early, you could become a member to the channel. You know, $2 a month. No pressure though, but you are an absolute real one if you do. Absolute shout out to my members. Thank you all, and I'll see you in the next video. Goodbye.